Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Very exciting time in terms of what we have going on here, because not only is she a wedding officiant and really starts the lives of people in terms of their marriage, but she's getting married. And she's with us today. Colleen from Colleen and Company, Colleen Dwyer, is here. Welcome back, Colleen. How you doing?
I'm great, Steve. Thank you.
Wow. I can't imagine 10 days from right now, you're getting married. And I have to ask this question. You're a wedding officiant. Who's actually doing your wedding?
We're going to do it together in Pennsylvania because of the Quakers being settled by William Penn. We have always had the option to do a self-uniting ceremony. So we are going to do a self-uniting ceremony. And we have like a big surprise at the end where we're going to let the guests actually pronounce us married. So we're pretty excited. I had to do something different.
I got to talk about that. I need to go there. So we don't want to, let the cat out of the bag, so to speak. But so the two of you are going to read your vows back and forth instead of having an officiant in the situation. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
and when it gets to the end where you are going to be pronounced as a couple, how do the guests do that?
So I do have some people involved, to keep things moving. Our best man is going to welcome the guests before we walk in, and we're going to walk in together. So he's going to just make the announcement of, we're doing something a little different because Colleen's an officiant, and he's going to welcome the guests and mention, to stay out of the photographer's way, some of those general announcements. And then we are going to walk in the wedding together in the processional. It's just going to be the two of us. And then when we get down there, we're going to, thank everybody for coming and talk a little bit about our relationship. And we have it each of us have a little part in that. And then my son is going to do a prayer for our marriage. And then we are going to have our mothers. Well, we're going to do our vows after that. And then our mothers are going to be our ring bearers. So they'll be holding our rings throughout the ceremony. My mom will bring it up and hand it to Rich. It'll be my ring, which is symbolic of how she's comforted me, carried me, provided me with that love and support my whole life. And now she's trusting him to take care of her daughter. And his mother's going to be holding his ring and pass it off to me. Wow. And then we're going to exchange rings. And my sister is going to stand and do a final blessing, like well wishes for our marriage. And then she is going to invite the guest to join her in saying, I now pronounce you married. So on 3, they'll all say, I now pronounce you married, or we now pronounce you married. And then my sister will say, you may seal your vows with a kiss, and we're going to kiss. And then she'll say, join me in congratulating and the Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez. And then we'll walk down the aisle out together. So it's very similar to a standard ceremony, but it has a lot more guest involvement.
Yeah, and we're talking about this today because it's just another example how almost anything is possible with a little creativity from somebody like you, because this is what you do in terms of your wedding ceremony. And I truly believe that a lot of people don't put the focus on the ceremony. It's all about the reception. Well, the ceremony is just as important because that's where it begins. Legally, who is your officiant? How does that play out?
I am. Well, in Pennsylvania, they have a different license for a self-uniting. So we each have to sign, the bride and the groom, and then we each have to have one witness sign as well. So we are going to have our mothers sign, just because we want to give them that honor. I was mentioning earlier too, including parents and kids in the ceremony is always a little challenging to find the right way to do it without letting them control things, So we're trying to give them those opportunities that are very special but we still have a lot of creative control and decisions that we make on our own. So, yeah, we're
It's a
excited.
it's a very delicate balance too, because you also want to give equal time to the
Yes.
different family members. So, you've got a lot of different components in your ceremony where you want to make sure that everybody feels like they have the right role in it. Um,
Yes.
it's funny when we talk about officiating your own wedding. I remember a few years ago that I guess somebody did a stunt where a guy married a TV. Like that was
Uh-huh.
like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. And I don't even know I don't know if it was legal or what. I mean, I'm digressing a million miles here.
Right.
Do you need to marry another person?
No. Yes.
Okay.
Because to get a marriage license, you have to prove who you are and that you're
Okay.
legally able to marry.
Gotcha.
And all the states have laws that you must marry another human, versus an animal or an inanimate object.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Yeah.
yes, there's no law that would permit that.
Just always wondered about that. So in terms
No.
of your reception, I see in
Hmm.
the video here, some people listening online, so I'll try and describe what you got in your background there. But it's
Sure.
outdoors. It looks like a very nice
Yes.
picnic setting. That
Hmm.
is your reception, correct?
Yes, we're doing a luxury picnic style wedding. And there's going to be tables set up with low tables set up throughout the whole venue. We're going to have one long one. We have about 60 guests, and the tables will have charcuterie all on it. And then we have another table for more of a meal type thing, and another table for desserts. I'm really excited about the whole luxury picnic. It's lots of rugs laid down and
Hmm.
blankets laid down and pillows. Each guest has pillows. There's wine glasses. It's all decorated. We have one vendor that is bringing the setups and the food. And then I still will have flowers and balloons and things like that as well. Tiki torches and music. So
Hmm.
it's a very much outside theme. We're concerned because next week we have a chance of showers. So very, very, very worried about that. But we have a backup plan in place to go to a local venue and set up the same thing inside. So,
Okay.
but ideally it'll be outside.
I love the two words. Who doesn't like a picnic? You don't think wedding, but when you put luxury next to it, right away, you have a great visual of what it can be. And I personally like it because it just breaks the formal thing from weddings, even though
Yes.
it's going to have a
Yeah.
very,
The only issue we had was like our mothers are not very good at getting up and down from the ground. So we do have a table at either end that is seated. So some of those guests that, can't necessarily stand are going to be in a seated table as well, or
wow.
can't sit and get up and down off the ground. And for women, I've had to really be careful to let them know you will be sitting on the ground, because some of them wear high heels and short skirts and long slits, and getting up and down off the ground, they might feel very uncomfortable. So I've tried to make it very clear it's going to be very nice, and I've sent the photos, and but you really need to consider what you're wearing.
I heard recently from somebody that's planning a wedding and doing an outdoor thing that they provide flip-flops or sandals, because if it's an outdoor wedding, you've got shoes on, it's hard to navigate, even grass, and what if you want to
Yeah,
dance, whatever. So they set it up. They said they're
right.
setting it up in like a big, classy looking bucket, and it's your own personal pair. I don't think there's a lot of expense involved in that if it's, sandals or flip-flops.
Right.
And I kind of like that idea in that if you were to bring your own, like in your bag or whatever, people might judge you like, "Ugh, what do you think you are? You just,
Yeah.
but if it's
Yeah.
universal for everybody, then it's like, oh, cool. Hey, thanks a lot. What a great thought and perk to have if you're a woman and you got heels on.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I remember 2 years ago, and they might still do it, but Old Navy used to sell flip-flops once a year for like $1.
Uh-huh.
So it really wouldn't be a big deal if you can get them that way. And I do think you're right. It just tells everybody, just be yourself, take off your shoes. And
Yeah.
if they don't want the flip-flops, they can just take off their shoes. Like it's basically opening the door for them to do whatever they want. So
100%. Yeah. And Old Navy does that quite often. I had in between houses, but I had a hot tub at my house, real nice, pergola and everything set up. And then when people would come over, and if they were like, they didn't want to walk, especially in the winter, you use a hot tub in the winter, but you got to get to it.
right.
I would just have a bucket, and I would spend like $20 and just buy a whole bunch of those flip flops, throw them in the bucket, and like, yeah, they're yours. Take them. That's it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
I don't really want them back. You can keep them, but
Yeah.
yeah,
But it's the same thing if you go to for a massage at a spa, you open up
yeah,
the locker and you'll have the robe, which they wash, but there'll be, shoes and flip-flops, and they just throw them out anyway. They're cheap, whatever,
yeah,
but they
exactly.
they serve a
Yeah.
purpose. Hmm.
And I think too, so often we're buying all these favors for our guests that are sort of silly and throwaway anyway. Like a bag of nuts or whatever. Get something fun and practical that you can incorporate at the wedding. And sure, they'll take them with them, and some of them will use them and some of them won't, but it's no different than any other favor that you're giving at the wedding. So
Yeah,
fun.
100%. I know we're pivoting over to the wedding and the reception where you're the officiant, but yeah, ideas are ideas, and you are involved in lots of weddings, so it's great to get that feedback. I think that my view of it, talking to people, the favor thing is kind of going away. It's
Yes,
if there's any favors, it's things that are useful, not just,
right,
tchotchkes that you're going to walk out and say, all right, what do I do with this? It's got the date on it and their
right.
name. All right, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I mean, I've seen frames. I've seen one thing that I think that I've seen more of that I find interesting is where they do a favor that also shows them what table they're sitting at, like I've seen it where they've had a
Hmm.
tile and they hand wrote their name, and then that tile is something you can take home and either put it on a wall in your home, or you can use it as a paperweight. But I agree
Huh.
with you. I think people are starting to become a little bit more mindful of waste, and so they're trying to be more practical with their favors. I'm doing seeds, that they can plant, wild seeds or wildflowers, just because we're going to be at a picnic area, and I think it kind of goes with the theme. So
I love that idea. And I never throw them away. Even I think my insurance company once gave me, a packet of seeds, and I felt guilty even to throw them away. You could just open them up walking down the street and throw them into a field.
awesome, right? Yes, yes.
Yeah. And,
Yeah,
and
give life an opportunity to grow.
yeah, absolutely. Talking about family and relatives and friends, incorporating them into the ceremony, what are some things that you've done before to make sure that everybody gets up? Yeah, feels good that they have an equal part.
Right. Well, that's always sort of the challenging uh, thing for couples to talk about. A lot of them have families that their parents have separated, the father's gotten married, the
Mm,
mother is not. How are we going to walk them in? Do we let the father come in with his new wife? So that's a real touchy subject. And when I'm working with couples, I want to get that out in the open right away. It's not uncommon at all. It's not unusual at all. So let's just, address the elephant in the room and talk
yeah.
about it so that we can find a way to honor each person and not, insult anybody at the same time. And sometimes definitely, I've seen frequently hard feelings. There might be a new stepmother that the groom is not happy with, or something along those lines. But it's better to say, long term, how do you want your wedding to be remembered? Let's do what we need to do that's the right thing.
Mm,
Either have her sit in the front row with your father and he walks in by himself, but you're still giving her a place of honor up front, and you're being respectful, or have him walk her in and then set up someone to escort your mother in as well. I really feel I encourage people to take the high road. If they decide to take the low road, if the parents are going to get funky, that's their problem. If you take the high road, it's something you'll live with yourself with forever, and you're not going to be ashamed of the decisions you made. And so, a marriage in general is compromise. It's going to be working through difficult times. So let's start this marriage out by figuring out the right way to approach this.
I'm glad you said that. I really am, because I'm a firm believer, just do the right thing. That's it,
yeah,
and you can go put your head on a pillow at night knowing that you did. And you
right.
can't control other people. They're going to do whatever they want to do. Just block them
Mhm.
out, whatever it might be. But that brings to mind what a challenging situation you've, I'm sure, been in many times with blended, divided families, where you need to keep everybody happy.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, and even at the couple level, they're not even connected yet by
Right.
marriage, and now there
Right.
could be differing opinions, and you have to sort of be the buffer in between.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a challenge there.
It is. It's not, I don't have as much problems with the couple on that. It seems that
Good.
when I present them with options, um, they either give one way to one another, or they come up with something new that is a combination of both of their points of view. Uh, it's good to be experienced enough to have options. That's one thing I really am grateful for, that I've done enough weddings at this point that I can give them some options that would kind of address their differences. Um, I agree with you 100% on that. I think
Mhm.
that the other thing, back to the families, is I often run into situations where parents really have strong belief systems, and they
Mm.
want to see that belief system reflected in the ceremony and even the reception. And so I kind of have to chat with them about that sometimes, and ease their minds that they have to do what's right for them. It is a hard time to make parents happy, but at the end of the day, it's your wedding, it's your future. You really do have to do it your way. But how can we do it your way and be considerate of those parents that have an opinion about it? So,
I don't want to go negative here, but I am kind of curious.
uh-huh.
What has been some of the bigger challenges that you've been in dealing with families, or where something went in a totally different direction? And of course, you just had to go with it, like spur of the moment, like a parent said, I'm not having this, and, maybe stormed off, or whatever it might be. Anything that has happened
Yeah.
to you along the way?
I had a mother that uh was not happy with the way things went at the rehearsal dinner. And so the day of the wedding, she just was, I'm not participating at all in this wedding. Up to 10 minutes before the wedding starting, she was throwing a bit of a fit. And it was so sad, because what could have been a lot
Mm,
of fun leading up to the wedding had this argument going on. And I was shocked. Frankly, I was shocked that the mother didn't just pause and realize what she was doing, because she was definitely hijacking the moment.
yeah.
Um, and I tried to speak to her about it myself, like, hey, mom to mom, we have to let the kids have their moment now. I understand how you feel. You have the opportunity to address this tomorrow, next week, anytime, but they'll not have another opportunity to have this wedding.
You're right.
And she still was fighting me on it, and actually insulted that I got involved. So it's tricky. It's really, really tricky. You have to know the group you're with. You have to know who has the most influence on those people.
Mm,
You might have to have sister come in, walk away, do a shot with mom or something, and calm her down, or go smoke a cigarette, whatever mom needs. Um, it's been a real challenge. But at the end of the day, in that case, even though it came down to the moment, mom walked down the aisle, she played the part, and Unfortunately, I wasn't the one that made the difference there. We got somebody else involved, and they were able to kind of talk her off the ledge. But it's sad because the bride was saying, "Mom does this all the time." At the last minute, she has to have some kind of spotlight on her. I guess what is really critical is knowing who those people are beforehand and having a plan B in place so that you can address that. You do that anyway with the flower girl and the ring bearer. You know that they're going to be, you don't know if they're going to actually walk down the aisle or they're going to be crying. You think the best, but you always say, hey, we'll have to just roll with whatever happens. I think that you need to do that with other guests too, when you know that they're a wild card. You just need to have a plan in place. Like, who's going to swoop in and walk with mom and get her back on track, So,
well, that's what makes you who you are and a true professional at what you do, and why it's so important to pick somebody like yourself, because you spot it. You're reading everybody. And dare I say that a lot of officiants just show up, got a pre-prepared, piece of paper, open the book up, read whatever, get a check and leave. And there's so much more to it. And it just kind of, Colleen, it blows my mind that couples will put so much focus on the reception. Yeah, you want it to be perfect. Yeah, you want it to be the right music. Don't play that song. Play that song, please. Got it. All the cues, everything there. But then when it comes to the actual ceremony that sets all of that other stuff up, the thought isn't there. So it's like imperative to make sure that it's done right. Would you want to buy a brand new, beautiful car that has, crappy tires on it? No, you want the best. It's the whole effect of all of it. So it's so impactful, and what a challenging position for you to be in when those things come up. But you know what? I'm sure you probably would agree, out of the gate, you can read what you got, and you can probably smell a situation, potentially a fire, maybe starting to burn as you're just weighing everything there, right?
Right. Well, and the way I usually approach it is, like I said, when we get to the part where we're talking about the bride, the flower girl and the ring bearer, I mentioned they can be wild cards, And I said, and that's a prime example of how you might have other people in the whole group that could be a wild card. So how are we going to address if something happens like that? Do you have, and I don't like people to rely completely on me. I'm like, who's that person in your family that herds the cats? Who's that person that speaks with authority and everybody listens? And let's have them on standby, because you don't know if you're going to need a little help, pushing people down the aisle, or, wrangling some vendor that you don't have time to address.
Sure.
A lot of people don't like to have a wedding planner. They're trying to save money, but you do need somebody that's on standby to take care of those fires when they happen. So that's one thing I coach people through when I'm planning their ceremony. Who's the fireman?
Yeah. And I look at it this way as well. It's a show. It's a production that you're putting on. Any production has a producer. So it could be your friend. You can trust that person, whoever it might be. Who's the producer? Just somebody that's got their hand on it. Fantastic talking with you. Like I never even looked at, dealing with the family and the parents and everything. Yeah. And, you're dealing with it now. Fortunately, everything is all good, but even the accommodations for the moms to make sure, given your scenario, that they're going to be comfortable and that you have a table set up and everything. What's your website? Somebody wants to reach out to you as a resource, questions.
It's Officiant Services by Colleen and Company. If you Google that, my website will come up, and you'll just be able to either give me a call, or you can log into my website and message me from there. I have my emails out there as well, so you can do that. I'm also on the Knot and Wedding Wire, even Thumbtack. So I'm from Central Pennsylvania, York, Pennsylvania. I'm happy to help you in any way with your wedding plans.
Wonderful talking with you, and congratulations. Best wishes for your wedding. And I'm putting it out into the universe, and I believe in all of that. It will be a sunny day and it'll be perfect.
Thank you.
All right,
You have a
Colleen.
great day. Bye-bye.
Enjoy your honeymoon too. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcasts on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.